Welcome to the Vault Past Perfect presented by Center 42. Selamat datang ke The Vault Past Perfect, dibawakan kepada Anda oleh Center 42. This performance is conceptualized by Casey Lin and Robin Loon and co-created with Nelson Chia, Oniatta Effendi, and Serene Chen. Please note that photography and videography are not permitted during the performance. 演出进行时，请不要拍照或录影。We hope you'll enjoy this brief trip back to the 90s in Past Perfect.
Good evening. Singapore is projected to have the lowest inflation rate in ASEAN in 1996 at 2.8%. Singapore's inflation in 1995 was also the lowest in ASEAN at 1.8%. The rise in inflation in Singapore between 1995 and 1996 was the highest in ASEAN. Singapore's rate of inflation went up by 1% compared to Brunei's 0.2% and Malaysia's 0.1%. All other ASEAN countries saw their inflation rates improve.
Singapore was ranked the 11th richest nation in 1995. Singapore did not make it to the list of top 10 richest nations in 1995.
Singapore's population has reached 3.6 million. Most are still kiasu.
Academics and property consultants say that the property market will not collapse. Big developers say otherwise. According to a survey, 50% of those polled say that the market will collapse, while 50% say otherwise. 50% of property speculators predict that the market will collapse, while another 50% predict otherwise. The uncertainty has left many Singaporeans dazed and confused.
A TCS actor has been arrested for drunk driving. He was stopped along the ECP at 3 o'clock last Sunday morning and arrested when he failed a breath analyzer test. This actor, who cannot be named for reasons I'm not supposed to say, won the Golden Star Award recently for acting as a drunk driver. The 26-part series, Whiskey on Wheels, features the relationship between a drunk driver and a news reader who reports on his drunk driving. The actor, who has been released on bail, has announced his engagement to me.
An Indonesian maid was taken into custody during the recent party at the Padang. Policemen Terence Tan and Chua Boon Chai escorted her to Beach Road Police Station after they found marks on her upper thigh, left buttock, and right breast. Police started getting suspicious when they noticed the maid climbing somewhere over the banner of the NDP rainbow. Her employer, businesswoman Doreen Tang, is still being questioned.
A 27-year-old insurance agent, Andrew Chan, was today sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Angela Tan, a 27-year-old marketing manager. The incident took place during a bungee jump at Sedili, Johor Bahru. Numbers of Singaporeans visiting Malaysia has been on the decline since early this year.
Cases of minor mental disorders is on the rise. The latest in a spate of psychiatric complaints involves 32-year-old Grace Quack, also known as Annabelle Chong, who, after recurrent bizarre behavior, was finally escorted to Woodbridge Hospital by her grandmother. A recent survey indicates that the family has to play a greater role in maintaining an individual's mental health.
10 people died and 17 others were injured when a brawl broke out between two rival all-girl gangs at a coffee shop at Yishun Street 21. The fight started after one gang member, Fan Chong, laughed at another gang member, Zoe Lei, for subscribing to M1 instead of Singtel. After discussing the merits of both and not being able to reach a consensus, beer bottles were used. 54 mobile phones were destroyed in the incident.
A one-day-old baby with a hole in his heart can lead a normal life after a grueling 27-hour operation. Head of the surgical team, Professor C.P.R. Radhagopa, has called the child hope. Singapore's economy will not be affected by his birth. Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping has died. Insiders say that he will be unable to go to Hong Kong to watch the handover ceremony. Singapore's economy will not be affected by his death.
A new study by 11 think tanks around the world has rated Hong Kong and Singapore the two freest economies worldwide. The study tracks 102 countries on 17 measures, including the freedom to open a bank account. International magazine The Economist wonders if the measures might be flawed. The 102 economies have been categorized according to truly free, free, mostly unfree, and repressed. Singapore and Hong Kong are truly free. Next is an excerpt from Three Fat Virgins Unassembled, written by Ovidia Yu. I'll be reading Virgin A.
I am Virgin B.
And I am Virgin C.
The character woman will be read by both Nelson and myself.
I am a school teacher. I always wanted to be a school teacher since I was a schoolgirl. I was always good at English and composition. I sang in the choir. Now I am a school teacher. I hate being a school teacher. Deep down inside me, I have a secret yearning to be a striptease artist and to pose naked for girly magazines so that hundreds of men will lust after my soft, young body, but I will turn them all down and instead marry a rich old man who never knew the meaning of true love and devotion until I have surrendered my virginity to him. However, in Singapore, this is not really a viable career option, so I became a school teacher. I'm also a Sunday school teacher. I have literary aspirations. I think I have it in me to express myself in poetry, or perhaps I write a book. It's not difficult to write a book. But first I think I will try something else. I will try drama. I'm too shy to act, so I will offer my services backstage.
I am a man. I am a director of plays. I am very successful at my other career at a major bank. So this is just an expression of some of my many, many talents.
I am a man. I like to express myself in bold images. But I am also generous. I understand that women are intimidated by me.
I am generous because I understand that.
And I allow women to be intimidated by me. Yo!
Yes, drama director.
Why haven't you called up all 185 people on the list that I asked you to call last night?
But I did call them drama director, even though I have to work a full day at school and a full day marking books, and I am having menstrual cramps. And I'm doing this only because I thought it would be fun and relaxing to explore new horizons in the arts.
I'm not interested in your menstrual cramps and your interest in the arts. Now you are working for me, you have to work according to my standards.
Well, if you called all the 185 people on the list that I asked you to call, why haven't they turned up for my auditions? You tell me that.
Some said they would come but didn't come. Some said they wouldn't come and didn't come. Some just went home, but I did call all 185 of them.
How incompetent of you, how inept of you, how ignorant of you. Can't you do anything right?
Did you even try to leave messages with those who weren't home?
I did, but most of these people who didn't come for your auditions said it's because they've worked with you before and they don't want to work with you again.
That is such a stupid reason. Why did you accept such a stupid reason?
Why did you let them give you such a stupid reason? Why did you call people who have worked with me before? You should know better than that.
Such a stupid, incompetent fat virgin. I don't know why I ask you to do things when you make a mess of them.
And now I have to go and do them all over again myself, and I'm such a busy, important man in my full-time job.
Why do you let him treat you like that? And he's not even your boss. That would be different.
He doesn't show you any respect as a person, and he's not even your husband. Now that would be different.
I can't walk out in the middle of a production.
I can't walk out on a career, but of course you can walk out on a production.
I can't walk out on a marriage, but of course you can walk out on production.
No, I can't.
Look, I'll be you, you be me. I quit! Damn you! That doesn't change anything! See? Wasn't that easy? I suppose so.
No. I'll be you, you be me. I'm sorry, I just can't go on.
But I'll try to change. Things will be different.
I'm sorry, I just can't go on. See, wasn't that easy?
I suppose. Try it.
Try it.
I'm sorry. I want to.
Here. This is for you.
Oh.
Call up the 185 again. I'll try to be more understanding because I realize that you are slow and not very bright. But please, try harder.
Yes, I will. Look at my beautiful flowers.
Are you having fun? I thought you were doing this for fun.
Are you broadening your horizons? I thought you were doing this to broaden your horizons.
Well, I've learned more about myself. I've learned that I am slow and I am not very bright. Isn't it so good that the drama director is patient and willing to give me another chance?
But these are plastic flowers.
But these are plastic flowers.
Plastic flowers will last longer.
Plastic flowers will last forever.
But I don't want something that will last forever. I want something that will be truly beautiful. And what is truly beautiful lasts for just a moment.
The pure young virgin of 17. The unwanted fat virgin of 28.
It's the same condition. Why do we say it so differently? Is the past perfect? Well, perfect is a strong word. Perhaps sometimes some of us tend to feel that the past was better than what we see now. Remember how some of our parents would say, "You people nowadays have no idea." Well, I have no idea if the past was better. But we keep going back to it. I know you do, because we all have a name for it. Nostalgia. So we have to ask, is there a future in thinking about the past? For that, let's talk about the 90s. And let's start by asking, why the 90s? In my conversations with Casey and Robin, we've come to realize that the 90s was an era where performing artists in Singapore were ferociously writing the rules. We dug ourselves up from the cultural desert that was before, and artists were creating and drafting the playbook of Singapore theatre. The 90s was also important to me. It was my formative years as a theatre artist. It was in the 90s that I learned some of the most important lessons and gained insights that made me what I am today. So what I hope to do today is to share two important lessons that I've learned from two of the most important teachers in my artistic life. Guo Baokun. Guo Baokun was an actor, mostly director, playwright, and teacher. He was the founder and artistic director of Practice Performing Arts School and the Theatre Practice, formerly known as Practice Theatre Ensemble. He was also the founder of the Substation and the Theatre Training and Research Program. At times, he was called the Doyen of Singapore Theatre. Now, sometimes one may feel that too much has been said about Guo Baokun. Sometimes I feel that way too. But I think it's also interesting if I could share some personal anecdotes about him, especially when I realized that I was fortunate to be among the last group of artists in my generation who had personally seen and worked with Baokun before he passed on. Back then, I was a resident artist with the Theatre Practice after I graduated from postgrad studies in London. It was late at night. Baokun had just watched the full run of a play for young audience that I had directed for the company. He had some comments. In fact, many comments. He mentioned a few crucial ones when I saw him in the foyer. I didn't immediately agree with him, but I nodded as I listened. He probably sensed my resistance. And so he did not continue with the comments, but offered to give me a lift home. I declined, of course, not wanting to trouble him. But he said, "It's fine. It's a chance for me to get to know you better." During the ride, I was feeling like shit. A little discouraged, but mostly tired and burnt out. We did not talk about the play. Instead, Baokun asked me about how I felt so far working in the company and how it was being a full-time young theatre artist. I told him I felt fortunate and was really grateful that I was given a chance to work in the company, especially when I had a 5-year study loan to worry about. Now, some context here. A full-time career in theatre, whether fully employed or as a freelancer, was not that common back then. And NAC scholarship had less focus on postgraduate students back then. So now, back to the right. Baokun started sharing his hopes and visions for the Theatre Training and Research Program, which was his new baby then. At that point, I drifted away a little, and when I came back, suddenly something came over me, and I said, "Guo Sheng," I call him Guo Sheng. "Guo Sheng, can I ask you something?" He said, yes. I said, have you ever thought about giving up? He paused. And in that brief moment, I was thinking to myself, why did I ask that? I was probably looking for some kind of affirmation or encouragement to keep me going or to get me out of that shitty, burnt out feeling. And before I could go further, Bao Kun said, yes, sure, all the time. In fact, I wake up every morning thinking if I should give up doing what I do. I was a little taken aback. Every morning I asked. I guess it wasn't the response I was looking for. And then he said, yes, every morning. But then I have to make a decision. There are two options in front of me. One, give up. Two, get up and carry on. When you see it that way, it becomes easier. Only two choices. The way to tackle the feeling of wanting to give up is to get up and carry on. At that point, I was thinking, wow, like that also can. What I'm trying to say, he continued, is that you are always making a decision. You always have a choice. And when you realize that no one has forced you to do this, and that this is a choice that you make, you are free. That I have made that decision, and that I am free. This irrational but highly effective way of thinking has been the power that motivates me since then. And I've also come to realize lately that this power and freedom that comes as a result of a decision are the roots of that pleasure that I feel deep down in my heart when I create as an artist. But how has that shaped me? It is still hard, don't get me wrong. It is still hard to make art. But I've learned not to complain, not to blame anyone or the big environment when things are not ideal, not to speak ill of things and other people, and not to point fingers. The choice is in front of you. All you have to do is step up and make that decision. I am grateful for this lesson. About a year and a half later, Bao Kun left us. It was different when you had to witness the fading of a great man's life at close range. It made you realize that greatness was not a given, but a choice. Here is an excerpt from Lao Jiu, a play written by Guo Baokun. I stress the word play because I was told that some younger theatre artists thought that Lao Jiu has always been a musical. And they were shocked to know that it is originally a play. Baokun first wrote it in Chinese in 1990, and then in English in 1993. I performed the English version in 1997 as Lao Jiu. Come to think of it, that could have been the last time the play was staged here by a professional theatre company. Today, 26 years later, I will be reading this excerpt as both Master Dan Shifu and as Lao Jiu. Shifu! Shifu! This art that you have practiced all your life, don't you want to pass it on? I really want to learn it. Why do you want to learn it? Because I like it. Because, Shifu, why did you want to learn it when you were young? Because our family was very poor. We have to find food. I was only 12 then. Just to find food? Of course, all kids like to play. But the master wouldn't teach me anything in the beginning. You want to learn? You steal it. The glove puppets are very good fun. The fighting is fantastic. Not only with the weapons, but they can change costumes as they fight on. Kids can only see the fun in the fighting, very exciting. But they don't understand the Qian Kun universe behind it. A tiny little glove puppet allows endless transformation. You move the hands, you roll up the sleeves, you tidy up the headdress, you strike the posture. When you walk, you distinguish between the young man Xiao Sheng, The old man, Lao Sheng. The young lady, Hua Dan. The old woman, Lao Dan. You stand, you sit, you swing around, you lie down, you drink tea, you write, you play kung fu. Endless changes, bang, bang, bang. When you have learned all the secrets, you will then understand what is fantastic is not the puppets, but the hand behind the puppet. Whatever greatness you show, it comes from the hand behind the puppet. Hand puppets means just that. Puppets handled by hand. The whole Qian Kun universe in my hand. What is so great about the Monkey King with all his fantastic transformations? When I withdraw my hand, he becomes a helpless puppet. The Qian Kun universe behind it? Everything's in your hand? Dozens of puppets line up in a row. When the music comes to a crescendo, I stretch out my hand. I open my throat. The entire world comes to my command. I can make them cry. I can make them laugh. I can make this character the winner. I can make the other character the loser. Behind the veiled curtain, I control all the players on stage and all the spectators in the theatre. They laugh when I make them laugh. They cry when I make them cry. In the 40s and 50s, I can make 4, even 5 performances every day. It was a wonderful time. And then, the world started to change. People became more interested in seeing films and television, and they even began to use recordings for their worships and rituals. My glove puppets began to stop moving. And then I began to understand that there are other hands behind my hand. I play the puppets. They play me. I laugh when they want to make me laugh. I cry when they want to make me cry. Have you ever taken any pupils? Not one of them made any good laugh. In our days, we must learn and work very hard for 3 to 4 years before we graduate. Now, people think this is too long, can't be bothered. At first, I can't be bothered also. You don't want to learn? Okay, go away. Don't waste my time. But as I get older, as I perform less and less, I long more and more for a good, serious pupil. I have been living in this for more than 50 years, you know. Last few years, my hands started trembling. My throat has got... Sometimes, late at night, maybe in my dreams, I see people coming to learn from me, and all my puppets begin to come alive again. They dance, they sing, they fight, they somersault. 师父, I feel like I'm in all this. To tell you the truth, Lao Gia, I have always wanted to take you up as my pupil since you were a child. You have good hands, good head, good heart. But you are also the only son of the family and you study so well. What is the use of learning this, something which people don't even want to see for free in the streets? No harm if you just play it for fun, but very bad if you take it seriously. Why very bad? Your parents, your whole family, don't you know what high hopes they have for you? I know. Then how can you say you don't care? Do you know what you're giving up? I know. Do you know that this would disappoint your parents and your whole family? I know. Do you know that this is the kind of opportunity which thousands of people dream of but can never get? I know. Then why do you still do it? I don't know. William Teo. William Teo, director, sometimes actor, founder and artistic director of Asia in Theatre Research Center, hairstylist, and salon owner. Actors who have worked with me may notice that I am very fond of talking about my experiences working with William Teo. Actors who have worked with him will probably all agree that his style of rehearsal and performance is indeed very memorable. His actors came from all walks of life. He wouldn't usually reject anyone who wanted to be in his play as long as they showed commitment. But once you lacked, you were out. And in mind you, not thrown out by William. Usually it was the actor's choice because by that time, they would have realized how far away they were from the focus of the entire group. William was very focused. He knew what he was looking for. But at the same time, he was very open. During rehearsals, anyone could contribute ideas. And anyone could just go on the stage and try things out, even if it's not your role. Actors can become musicians at certain times, and musicians can become actors. Actors were helping other actors with costumes, and we took care of our own props. In fact, William emphasized the need for artists to keep learning and training. We practiced yoga, tai chi, meditation. We learned to play drums, we ironed costumes, made props, worked with sound systems, lighting equipment, and boiled tea leaves eggs for the audience. We would sweep the stage. We would ensure that the audience seats were clean. We would pour drinks and invite the audience to stay back and chat with them about the play, about art and life, and listened to their comments. Now, by now, some of you might have guessed, where do the ensemble model, the drink and talk post-show dialogue sessions, and the emphasis on training at 9 years theatre come from? And why the actors in my play are always seen moving set pieces? William loves to chat, and he loves a bottle of good wine. These were perfect reasons for rehearsals to flow into chill-out sessions at his place afterwards. Now, I remember at one of such sessions, after a few glasses of wine, I was sharing my thoughts about how the stage was sacred and how actors should respect the stage and hence serious about the content they bring into the space. And William raised his glass and he said, "But do you know the reason you stand on that stage?" I said, "To perform." "But who is it for?" he asked. "For the audience, I guess," I said, not knowing where this was going. "And why is it important?" William asked. "Why? What do you mean?" Another actor joined in. And William explained. "Because the audience could have chosen to stay home and watch TV. They could have gone shopping or watched a movie or eaten dinner with friends, but they chose to come to the theatre, some of them from far away, by bus, by train, and brave the traffic to come to the theatre and spend 2 hours of their precious life with you, on you. Do you know how privileged it is?" We were silent. I think we must have known this, but none of us would usually place so much weight on this fact. And then William continued, "That is why you must not give the audience anything less than your very best." Fast forward many years. I was at a stage in my career researching actor training methodologies, and William's words began to make sense to me. If I truly appreciate my audience, if I must not give them anything less than my very best, and if I can train to become better than what I am now, there is absolutely no reason for me not to train. In other words, I've come to realize that when actors train, it is not merely for themselves, but for the audience, who are the very reason for their existence. Actor training is an existential action. Now, some of you may think that I'm really exaggerating this, but this was the lesson I've learned, and that is how I would like to understand it. There are, of course, many more lessons I've learned in the past 30 years, especially during the 90s, and many more teachers in my life. May Wong, Goh Boon Teck, Kok Heng Luan, Ong Keng Sen, Ang Gei Ping, Robin Loon, Casey Lim, Anne Bogart, Tadashi Suzuki, and the list goes on. And now, back to the question. Is there a future in thinking about the past? And here's my offer. As you look into the past, like I just did, you may encounter a warm, profound feeling. It is the feeling you get when you remember how you are shaped by what you have learned. you realize that there was an emotional connection between you and the people who have shared. In the same way, we are also emotionally connected to the people of the future. So what the past could really do is teach us about the now. So look around you now, as an artist living and working now. Look at your co-workers, look at your audience. Whose lives are you touching now? Because that will be the future you help to write. Before I end, I really want to thank Center 42 and the audience for this chance to peer into the past. Through this nostalgic trip back to my younger self, I've come to remember the fact that I was there when we were writing the rules, drafting the playbook of the Singapore theatre today, and I am extremely proud of that. So, thank you.
Now we'd like to share with you an excerpt from Private Parts, written by Michael Chiang. I'll be reading Mirabella, a male transitioning to female. This is from Act 2, Scene 6, where she is waiting for her sex change operation, or what is known today as the gender-affirming surgery.
I'll be reading Warren Lee, a male TV host who has his private parts smashed by a golf club and is waiting to have his genital reconstruction surgery.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Mirabella.
Hey, why the long face? Cheer up. This is for you.
For me. Thanks a lot, Mirabella. You shouldn't have. They're nice. Thank you.
You like that? I didn't know what to buy. I've never bought flowers for a man before. Actually, do men receive flowers?
Gee, I don't know. I guess so. Actually, they do. My fans used to give me flowers all the time. Yeah, I guess men do receive flowers.
Oh, you must have received hundreds of bouquets and much nicer ones too.
Yeah, but after a while, they don't mean much. No, that's not what I meant, Mirabella. It's different when you receive them from friends. It's the thought behind it that counts. And your flowers, they're different. Really.
Oh, I'm just being silly. I just wanted to cheer you up. You made a joke. There is life in you after all. Welcome back.
There's something else. Enough about me. How about you? When are you due for your operation?
Tomorrow.
Are you nervous?
A little. I'm trying not to think about it. How about you? When do you get your equipment fixed?
Day after tomorrow.
Oh, is that what's worrying you? You shouldn't worry. These are the best doctors around. That's why it's so expensive.
No, it's not the operation. Well, it is, but no, it's nothing.
Come on, out with it. What's bothering you? Maybe I can help.
Well, okay. Let's say you were my girlfriend and this happened to me. Would you want to know the whole truth? And would you treat me differently?
It depends. It depends on what our relationship was like.
How do you mean?
How long have we been going out together?
About 2 years, slightly more.
Sex?
What?
Sex. Have we had sex? And was it good?
Come on, is that relevant?
Well, I want to know if we had a great sex life, a mediocre sex life, or a lousy sex life. I mean, will I miss what we did?
Yeah, well, yes.
Well, yes, what? Yes, we had sex. Yes, it was great. Yes, I will miss it. What? You must be more specific.
Okay, maybe this isn't such a good idea, yeah?
Don't be silly. You do it on TV all the time. It's time you answered some of your own questions.
Okay. Okay, we have had sex. It was...
All right. Okay, sex life average, won't miss much. Next. Do we have a lot in common?
Yes. Horror movies, horror stories. We both like Stephen King and we like watching TV, but she likes game shows, which I can't stand. And we also like going to garage sales on weekends just to look at things and see what people collect.
Okay, I'm into creep shows and secondhand things. Very interesting relationship, Warren Lee. What do we buy at these garage sales?
We don't really buy anything, we just browse. Well,
Do you love me? I mean, her a lot. Could you imagine life without her?
I spend practically all my free time with Rosalind.
Rosalind, that's her name.
Yes, she's very sweet. You know, she rings me every day after lunch and asks me what I ate and tells me what she ate.
How romantic. What is she? A dietitian?
No, a reflexologist. You know, she massages feet.
For a living. Gee, is that how you met? You are full of surprises, Warren Lee.
Well, she's a friend of a friend, and I was told to see her because I was so stressed out with all that filming schedule. Anyway, that's how it started.
Interesting. So she started with your feet and worked her way up. Very original.
Look, she's very nice. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen.
Hey, take one step at a time, okay? If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Warren, if she really loves you, your little handicap won't be very important. Here is where it matters. This is the organ you would worry about.
I guess you're right.
Come on, let's go. In junior college, I played tennis. I auditioned for the choir. I got in, but it clashed with tennis, so the choir had to go. I did a lot of school plays in MGS, and when I went to NUS, I did hall plays, and the one that sticks in my mind is a musical called Rumble Park by Temasek Hall. That was one of the first few times when I felt so excited to be on stage and experience that thrill. And I was hooked. And then I thought to myself, I can do this. I read an audition notice in section 2 of the Straits Times. A few friends and I went to audition for this musical. 21st January 1994. Section 2, what's on? Wanted full-time singers and actors aged 18 to 40 who are able to rehearse for 6 weeks for the performance from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Show to be staged from May 27 to 31st, 1994. Bring along a non-returnable photograph. I think I had an extra bus pass photo. Mind you, the last time that I auditioned for anything was for the school choir. But I don't know what possessed me to think that I could audition for a professional musical. Maybe it was possession. Anyway, I went with a few friends from Temasek Hall to Fort Canning Drama Centre Rehearsal Room 1 for auditions, which turned out, thanks to Dr. Robin Loon's fact-checking, not to be where it happened. According to the open call, it was actually at the Fort Canning Black Box Music Room where TheatreWorks used to be. I could have sworn it was at the Drama Centre Rehearsal Room. But anyway, it was in the Fort Canning vicinity. There was a singing audition, a dancing audition, and I can't remember if I had to prepare an acting audition piece as well. It was 29 years ago. Gosh. My first professional acting gig was 29 years ago. So, none of my other friends got selected, and I did, and that was the first time that I met Emma Yong. Does anyone here know Emma Yong? We miss you, woman. And does anybody know what the name of that musical was? Kampong Ember. Kampong Ember, indeed. Emma and I started off as the chorus in Kampong Ember. Emma had just finished her A-levels and I was in first year in NUS, majoring in theatre studies and English language. Fast forward, Emma and I singing and dancing at Kallang Theatre with the likes of Nora Samusia, Tan Keng Hua, Adrian Pang, Glenn Gui, Ko Ching Man in a musical written by Catherine Lim and Dick Lee. On the second night of Kampong Ember, President Ong Teng Cheong and Mrs. Ong came to watch us. And I quote, "If the creators of Kampong Ember hope to capture the idyllic and slow rhythms of Kampong life through music and movement, they have succeeded on every count. The unhurried and natural movements of the cast in Kampong scenes, with its authentic sets, certainly evoked a sense of nostalgia. The Peranakan setting, conceptualized by actor-director Glenn Gui and composer Dick Lee, gives the musical a strong cultural identity." Unquote. Pan Ming Yen, 30th May, 1994. And everyone was singing this little song. In every village by the sea, there stands a tall and ancient tree that shelters from the sky above, a tree of hope, a tree of love. It shares our joy and feels our pain. It grows with us through sun and rain. It stays so green the whole year through, and flowers when a dream comes true. Bunga sayang, bunga sayang, you are heaven's own work of art. Bunga sayang, bunga sayang, gentle flower of the heart. Cha-cha-cha. Choreography by Najib Ali. I was 19 years old when I performed in Kampong Ember, and I was so lucky to have been in that musical. And also in another musical some of you may have heard of called Chang and Eng, staged by a theatre company called Action Theatre. The company was housed right here at 42 Waterloo Street. Artistic director of Action Theatre was also the director of Chang and Eng the musical. His name is Ekachai Erkrongtham. Music and lyrics to Chang and Eng by Ken Lau. We miss you too, Ken. Anyway, I never got the big singing parts. I was always in the chorus, my pen ride. But as some of us will know, the chorus always have the most fun. My pen rai in Thai means, never mind, my dear. You must look beyond, search for one's better side. I also did Haresh Sharma's musical version of the teenage textbook, originally written by the late Adrian Tan. And for that, I got to play the lead, and that was a lot of fun as well. And that was one of the best things about my life as an actor in the 90s. I had a lot of fun. Most of the time, because I really did not know what being an actor entailed. I just went for auditions and did what needed to be done. But I learned so many things while I auditioned and did what needed to be done. It was like an explosion of the self, and many new selves were created. A new thing emerged every time I took on a project, and it really helped that I was a university student with a very flexible timetable. I really think that that gave me breadth and space to be so open to new things. I had time to think and not be too concerned about chasing the next production. I also think that being an art student, being academically exposed to literature and plays, taught me something. Nothing I did in the 90s was part of a larger and deliberate career plan. Not at all. I just followed where the auditions led me. And there were so few auditions. 1 year after Kampong Amber, I went to audition for a play produced by The Necessary Stage, directed by Kok Heng Luan, Guo Qingliang, and written by Kwa Serene, Ke Serene. It was called Invisibility, 世中隐者. And, as you can guess, it was in Mandarin. Wanted young Mandarin-speaking adults from 21 to 27 to audition for a play to be staged in November. Please call 733-2716. Okay, so thanks to my very diligent mother, I've had very solid training in English and Mandarin, so I was fairly conversant in English and Mandarin. But doing an entire play in Mandarin was something else. So I ran to the NUS library and I dug out this old dusty book containing audition pieces in Chinese. But the problem was they were all in the traditional script. So I had to transcribe the traditional script, the 繁体字, into the simplified script, 简体字. I want to stress, remember at that point, there was no Pleco app. You had to use a physical Chinese dictionary. I wrote it all down on paper, I borrowed the book, I took it with me to the audition. And okay, this time, I think it was actually at the Drama Center, room 1. Right? Or was it at 126? Hey. Never mind, anyway, I went for the audition. And I memorized from the simplified Chinese transcript that I'd handwritten on paper, which I then sandwiched in between the pages. I was revising from it, and then Kok Heng Luan caught sight of me holding this old dusty book. I delivered my audition piece in the best Mandarin I knew how, hitting all the emotions I hoped appropriately. At the end of the audition, Kok Heng Luan was instead so intrigued by the old book that I was carrying. And he kept asking me, where did you get this from? And when he opened the pages, all my transcribed pages fell out. And he looked at me and said, you did all this? I said, yes. He smiled at me in that Kok Heng Luan smile. And he continued to fuss over the dusty book. And later, he sat me down and he said, okay, I can't actually tell you what the part is going to be because it's not written yet. But I would like you to come on, be a part of the ensemble and help to devise this piece. It will be a long process, possibly 12 months, but we will provide training and we will work on and off. The play will still be in Mandarin. Oh, also the subject matter will be quite adult. Are you okay with it? So he's telling me, all of 21 years old, that the part was not yet written. We will have to undergo training and workshopping for around 12 months. And the part is about sexual fetishes among strangers. And was I okay with it? I replied, sure. Was I insane? Maybe. Was I possessed? Possibly. But I said yes. Mind you, this is fresh off the all-singing, all-dancing extravaganza that was Kampong Amber. And I am now into the alternative scene. It was so underground and so alternative that it wasn't even written yet. And that began an incredible journey of discovery and training. I worked with Ang Gei-pin, Hong Yiping from Theatre Ops, Lao Niu Juchang, who tried to teach an incredulous 21-year-old that she should breathe like a hollow tube. Or was it that my body was a hollow tube and I should let the breath go from my toes to my head? I didn't ask because I was trying very hard to be the hollow tube and to try and breathe like the hollow tube. And I did my best. And I remember I only passed out once when Gei-pin was conducting the exercise. Another time, I turned up for training, but when I arrived, she instead said to me, 我们去看戏好吗? Yes. I don't remember what theatre we watched, but I think it was children's theatre. Casey Lim will know all about my fainting spells. I fainted once during the rehearsal of Hungry in 1998. It scared the hell out of him. And so I'm convinced that when he cast me in PIE in 1999, he made me sit on a chair behind a scrim the entire performance. Well, fainting or no fainting, nothing was wasted. Every encounter was an opportunity, even though at that time, I really didn't know what it was all about. Couldn't understand the point at all. But I embraced it all, and I learned to trust myself with it. I remember going to the Guinness Theatre at the substation when the space was being set up for invisibility, and I was so blown away by how the space had been transformed. The ambience was truly seedy. And this was also the first and last time that I ever smoked in a play, I think. I quote, "If playwright Kwa Serene had wanted to warn his audience that there is little meaning in their lives, he succeeded. He amused and embarrassed his audience with portrayals of unthinking acts, an actor's obsession with his navel, another ceaseless inspection of her acne, and yet another mindless chewing of bananas. Observations culled from real habits." Unquote. Jason Liao, 20th August, 1996. And in the same review, and I am sharing this because I am quite proud of my Mandarin, Jason Liao wrote, quote, "Chen's crisp diction and nuanced delivery were the most impressive, immersed fully in her thrill-seeking and shopping-jaded persona," unquote. It must be the hollow tubes. So Robin Loon asked me why I said yes to this project. Why do past perfect? I thought about it, and then I replied, I guess why I'm doing this is because I'm looking to be surprised. And what do I mean by this? I must say that my experiences, my training and working in the 90s have really spoilt me. I was exposed to a barrage of ridiculous experimentations that not many today in their right minds would agree to. And yet, I and some of my colleagues here will tell you, not only did we agree to them, we built a lot of ourselves on them. Having gone through all that mayhem in the 90s, I have to say it's now hard for me to be surprised. But if old habits do die hard, I'm still living for the surprises, still living to try and breathe like a hollow tube. Every breath, taking its journey from my toes to my head, occasionally passing out from the intensity of it all, but always fully aware and fully committed. I guess the real surprise I have found through this process in Past Perfect is this. I have not given up looking for that moment to be surprised. That I've not given up completely. And as for my now departed friends, I think they would not have given up either. This is a scene from the play Undercover, written by Tan Hao.
I'll be reading Chiang, a theatre director. In this scene, he is rehearsing a play with fellow actors, read by Nelson and Serene. I don't know. I'm still not happy with it. I think it's not funny enough.
You didn't write a comedy, that's why.
What I'm saying is maybe it should have.
This sounds like it's going to be even more unreal.
You see, maybe it's better that we make a joke out of it all. Levity for gravity. I want to make them laugh, get them entertained. Yes, I want to get their guard down, and when they are really enjoying themselves, they may suddenly realize that this is not funny at all.
I don't know if it's right to make fun of it.
It won't get us into trouble, I hope.
Come on, guys, don't be paranoid. Nobody's been jailed for writing a play before.
But I don't wish to be the one setting the precedent.
But there is another problem with the play, more fundamental. An inherent paradox in the premise of a paradox.
A paradox?
Yes. You see, the play is saying that they don't tolerate dissent, right?
Well, yes.
Is this play an example of dissent?
It is critical of them, no doubt about it. Yes, I would say so.
So let's, for argument's sake, consider one possible scenario. Let's say they allow our play to be performed.
You mean they don't censor it?
Yes, that would demonstrate that they are not intolerant of the dissent. And since the play's premise is that they are intolerant, the premise would fail if they let it through.
Yes, but what if they don't allow it to be staged?
By censoring the play, which is an example of dissent, that would be shown to be intolerant of dissent. Then the play's premise would be borne out.
Exactly. So the play's premise works.
Not quite. Huh?
I'm hungry. Can we go for lunch now?
Wait! You see, if the play is banned, then there will be no play to speak of. If there is no play, then there is no premise.
So if the play's premise is right, then the play will not exist, and there will be no such thing as its premise.
Right! Now, in a nutshell, we have this. If the play is staged, it is meaningless because it does not reflect the truth. And if the play is not staged, it becomes useless as a play because a play must by definition be staged before it becomes a play.
We are stuck with a play which makes no sense either way. A paradox!
Yes!
So now that everyone is in agreement, can we go for lunch now?
In September 1999, I performed in a play called Peti Kayu Ibuku. It was based on a Mandarin play written by Ng Xingyue, translated into English by the late Kuo Pao Pun. The Malay version was transcreated by Alfian Saad from Pao Pun's English text. That was the last theatre contact I had with Pao Pun. But Pao Pun shaped my theatre experiences in the 90s. And so as a tribute to Peti Kayu Ibuku, I am doing today Peti Kayu Ibu Mu. And instead of taking things out of the chest, I am putting things in. In 1992, still a second year in Victoria Junior College, I was in my first Malay production with Theatre Kami at the substation. I didn't act in it, despite receiving the jury special award for acting at the Kemuning's Youth Theatre Festival, something like SYF but not quite for JCs and Preview Centres. I chose to assist stage manager instead. The stage manager was my friend, Aidli Moscow. A part of me probably felt insecure because the rest of the cast from the Kemuning Theatre Festival were all damn talented. But maybe also because I didn't want to be directed by the nor Effendi Ibrahim, whom I was dating back then. To be honest, we were not prepared for the response to Anak Melayu. There were many articles about Anak Melayu on Berita Harian and the newspaper, citing dismay and disappointment in the Malay youths, us, for putting such a play. I was genuinely surprised and I felt a little disappointed, maybe because I felt my community was not ready for a play like Anak Melayu. We were also told that the ISD was following us. We never verified it nor had concrete evidence, but my mother, she warned me about this and she told me, don't step out of the house. Kau jangan nak keluar dari rumah, she said. We had no evidence, but I was paranoid. Every time I stepped out of the house, I was wondering if I was being followed or if someone was watching me. Now, please remember, I was only 18 when this happened. Thinking back, I was traumatized. And the trauma probably stays on till today. We were young artists. And we put so much of ourselves into this process. We were the Anak Melayu. A bunch of young people with a lot to say. So we said it. Lihat apa yang telah terjadi. Sudah berlaku. Yang anehnya, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan duduk saja. Rasa marah, rasa sedih, rasa tersinggung, tapi duduk situ saja. Tak masuk akal. Sebagai seorang remaja, saya sedihlah lihat kebodohan si dewasa tidak bertanggungjawab. Semuanya gila. Semuanya gila. The cast created characters that were so close to our hearts and to our peers' experiences that it was hard to distance and de-roll the characters when we rehearsed at what was known then as TPAC, Teluk Air Performing Arts Centre. Now that was trauma too, because the actors represented a segment of Malay youths whom we felt were left behind. That was then. This is now. Has that much changed? I wonder. Effendi and I met Pao Kun at the old drama centre on Fort Canning, and he asked us, why do we do what we do? We spoke about how as young Malays we wanted to find our voices through and in the theatre. And his reminder to us was to never forget what we said. But at 18, what would we ever know or imagine to be our identities? Malay identity. Apart from being an actual anak Melayu, what were we? I was recruited from NIE, National Institute of Education, after the Year 4 device piece that we did under Ko Pao Kun. It was a showcase for the Year 4s, and he called it The Day My Grandfather's Bird Died. For this device play, Pao Kun devised several exercises like taking a bus ride 10 times over. You know, I saw the same nurse taking the bus going for her shift to the hospital and then boarding it after her shift ended to go home. At that time, I never knew why I did it, but like a lot of people who worked with Pao Kun, or PK as we fondly called him, we just did what he told us to do. Reflecting back on that now, I realized PK wanted me to appreciate stillness while in motion and to find meaning in the mundane. He had another favorite exercise, and it is to bring your favorite song into the rehearsal space. So I brought a spiritual Indonesian number, which the song is about, how God sees everything you do and everything you say, and yet we continue to cloak ourselves in lies. He loved that song so much, and he had asked me to perform it in The Day My Grandfather's Bird Died. So I sang it. Dialah satu yang maha mendengar. Dialah satu yang maha melihat. Tiada guna menutupi sembunyi dari kuasanya. I'm not sure, but I don't think PK understood a single word I was singing. But he just told me he loved it. He's also always, I remember, closing his eyes when I would sing. Until today, I never knew whether he was awake or sleeping. Now, on to Geylang People in the Net, which was my first professional production at the Victoria Theatre. Pao Kun created exercises to explore Geylang, and I went to Geylang for fieldwork at night. I visited the red light district, and it is through this production that I learned about odd and even-numbered lorongs and the division of Chinese Geylang and Malay Geylang, divided by the Paidebai Mati Station. Some of the cast were given tasks to explore food in Geylang. Some of us were tasked to explore the sex industry. Can you guess which task this tudung-clad 23-year-old NIE undergraduate got? Clever. Of course, fate would have it, sex. Was I worried? Not at all. Not until I was approached by a pakcik in one of the even-numbered lorongs, and he asked me, "Dek, berapa?" All I did was stand there waiting for my male classmates to go and get some sound bites, and then they had a peek of the fishbowl concept of the sex workers, which of course I was not allowed to go in. And all the time I was wearing that plain beige tudung and carrying an e-spec haversack, walking along the red light district. And for the record, the pakcik was verily disappointed. And we now move to my Datuk Raja experience. Firstly, I must explain to you what is Datuk Raja. It is a nightclub, exclusively for Malay clientele. Let me introduce to you or illustrate to you the spatial mise-en-scène of this establishment. Now over here there is a DJ console and there are these bars that look like a pawn shop. PAWN. I'm talking about Penang. Please don't be distracted, can or not? Now, these bars, usually at the pawn shop, is in front of the display case, right? In this Datuk Raja, imagine there is a turntable here and the DJ behind the bars. Now, I want to invite you to hear with me the kind of songs, Western rock songs, that DJ would play. Shock to the heart, and you're to blame, baby, you give love a bad name. Wow! And then, soon after the rock song ends, the live band over there breaks into a traditional Malay song. Tepuk-tepuklah tangan sambil menari, hiburkan hati sayang sambil menyanyi. Alamak. Now, I suppose you're wondering, how did this tudung-clad undergraduate enter Datuk Raja, right? Costume lah. In that time, I was trying to get as much info to bring back to the devising space. I hid in the toilet and I wanted to hear these conversations and of course all that music. And so to blend in, I wore a turtleneck and a beret, macam Emily in Paris. Tapi this one is Oniatta in Geylang. Listening to the conversations between the Mak Ayam and the Anak Ayam on how to dance with the pakciks on the floor. It took me back to the text of Anak Melayu, that excerpt I read earlier at this segment. That Anak Melayu was present that night at Datuk Raja. This play was my first experience with other cast members speaking different languages. Aku hanya mahu sebuah sungai untuk gelangku, bersama pohon-pohon dan rumput rampai di tepi sungai itu. Dan aku hanya mahu ibuku di bawah sebuah pohon di tepi sungai, mendekapku di dadanya sambil cerita derita tentang sebuah pulau. Di pulau itu terdapat sebuah gunung yang tinggi dan sebuah danau yang dalam. Di situ terdapat binatang-binatang yang tercantik, burung-burung yang tercantik dan ikan-ikan yang tercantik di dunia. Tetapi tiada yang menyentuh binatang-binatang, burung-burung dan ikan-ikan ini. Di situ semua yang mereka lakukan hanya bernyanyi, berenang dan bermain sepanjang hari.
我只希望牙龙能有一条长长的河流，河的两岸有绿绿的草地，有高高的树。我希望有妈妈在树下把我抱在怀里，跟我讲故事。故事里有一个小岛，有一座高山，有一个大湖，那里有世界上最美的飞鸟，最美的野兽，最美的鱼虾。但是没有人去打猎、捕鱼、抓鸟，他们一天到晚只会游泳、唱歌、玩耍。
I was a full-time teacher by this time. So as soon as my day in school ends around 5, I head to the theatre for rehearsals. and rehearsals would end at around 11, and then we continued to eat at S11. Do you know what S11 is? Yes? For those who don't know, it was a small eating place next to the original National Library on Stamford Road. Many actors ate there late at night because we had to rush to rehearsals. There were halal and non-halal food options. This makan place no longer exists, but we will always remember how hungry actors and techies were nourished. The ensemble worked with an actor from Taiwan, and the working language was Mandarin, although I think the Taiwanese Mandarin sounded very different from what I know. In this same production, I worked with very experienced actors like Sasi, Johnny, Ramesh, Jean. Some days I didn't understand what was being said between the actors, but I never felt for once excluded. In fact, I picked up a few phrases in Mandarin. 你好，我很好，谢谢。什么？哦，对不起，我不知道，我是马来人。And when some folks, right, were going on in Mandarin and I really didn't understand beyond the basics that I have, I would nudge Johnny and I would ask him, hey, Johnny, 他说什么? And Johnny would just give me a translation. Sometimes I would understand the translation. Sometimes he would just look at me and give me this very long stare. And then I know something intense was going on the theatre space, on the rehearsal space. Now that's the kind of comfort and respect that we had for each other in a production like this. Everyone honored each other's diverse backgrounds, language, race, culture, voices. And it was something I never saw or experienced again in the theatre. Everything felt so organic. I never even noticed this time that I placed my hand in Kwok Kian's mouth to pull out a fishbone, which was a device moment that eventually got scripted. I saw nothing to it until Alfian's review about how that was quite a beautiful gesture and a testament that there were no boundaries. When we were devising the script, Pao Kun asked all the actors, what sort of funeral do you want, personally? Which then became our character's final narrative. Kalau aku pergi malam Jumaat lepas maghrib. Kalau aku pergi, tolong telefon kawan-kawan aku dan anak aku supaya mereka dapat menziarahi aku pada kali terakhir. Esok paginya, mandikanlah aku dan bungkuskanlah badan aku dalam kain kapan yang putih dan bersih. Bas jenazah akan bawaku ke pusara aman. Di situ tolong jangan menangis kerana setiap detik air mata akan memberatkan pemergianku. Aku hanya minta disedekahkan surah Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim, Maliki Yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim, ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. I get emotional reading this 24 years after we performed it. Maybe because I am older. And you know, a lot of us are caring for our elderly parents today. But looking back, I realized what Pao Kun did was to honor each and every actor's contribution, what we brought to the space. Our language, our faith, our belief, our voices. 1999. We are back at the substation. You all know substation? Guinness Theatre. Now, no more. My first and only one-woman show at the substation, Peti Kayu Ibuku. I was 25 years old. I was so proud of this production. Every actor wants to own the stage. If they say they don't, they bluff you. The other thing that made me so proud of this show was this. My mother was someone who never liked my being in the theatre. But she turns up, whose usual response when asked, "How, Ma? How? You like the play?" She would say, "Okay lah." However, at the end of Peti Kayu Ibuku, my mother could not stop crying. She said it reminded her of her life as a stepdaughter. She lost a mother when she was 3 months old and had little recollection of her birth mother. Her childhood was a painful one, where there was abuse and neglect. So to watch a play about the relationship between mother and daughter must have been quite traumatic for her, but also cathartic. Quick synopsis: the play was about a daughter opening a wooden chest and taking items belonging to her late mother out of the box. Every item she removed triggered a memory and a lot of pain, and the play ended with a symbolic bearing of the past, with sand flowing from the tracks on the ceiling, controlled by the petite but ever so talent extraordinaire, our friend Jean Charity. Now Oniatta is putting her memories into this chest and sharing it with you before she closes it. And that final song. Getaran jiwa melanda hatiku, tersusun nada, irama dan lagu. Walau hanya sederhana, tetapi tak mengapa. Moga dapat membangkitkan, sadarlah kamu wahai insan, tak mungkin hilang irama dan lagu. Bagaikan kembang sentiasa bermadu, andai dipisah lagu dan irama, lemah tiada berjiwa, hampa.
This is an excerpt from Descendants of the Eunuch Admiral, written by Kuo Pao Kun. For almost 30 years, Zheng He plowed the South China Sea and the Indian Ocean. He wandered the wilderness at sea and on land, tens of thousands of miles away from his home, his nation, his emperor and lord. An outcast almost for life, exiled on the vast open sea, he, apart from serving the emperor's imperial interest, also must have been looking deep in his heart for his own paradise. There is a story told like this in folklore.
One day, some way after the Great Armada entered the Indian Ocean northwest of Sumatra, a terrifying storm came upon his ships. Despite the immensity of his 440-foot command ship, they were thrown into the air like a toy, and everyone seemed destined for the bottom of the sea.
Ah, let us learn from Sang Nila Utama, the Prince of Tamasi.
And they started to throw everything into the sea, including their valuable personal apparel. But no use. The storm persisted, even after the grand eunuchs had also thrown their various headgears into the water. Usually a very calm leader, Zheng He also began to panic.
Ya Allah, save us!
He cried out, remembering how he and his family and relatives prayed in his childhood days.
Ah, Buddha, save us!
He appealed, remembering the monk in Xi'an who enlightened him as to the holy scriptures.
Ah, sea goddess, rescue us!
He prayed, clearly remembering the stone tablets that he had erected in Taicang and in Changle. And then, a miracle happened. The storm subsided. Not only that, drums and cymbals and chanting were heard from high up in the sky, and as an invigorating fragrance filled the air. Suddenly, there appeared on the top of the highest mast an angel-like young lady with a graceful face and a youthful body. Her costume and long hair were floating in the air where the storm had altogether lost its trace. And the next moment, the lady was gone.
People say this was the sea goddess herself, appearing to calm the hearts and minds of Zheng He and his armada of men. Soon afterwards, land was sighted, and the intimation of tragedy became memory. Hey hoy! Good people there! Where have we come to? What do you call this beautiful land of yours here?
Oh, this is the land where the Buddha walked, where the Buddha bathed, where the Buddha slept. This is the jewel of the world, the jewel formed by a drop of the Buddha's tear.
Zheng He and members of his fleet were overcome with joy. Is this the promised land of abundance and tolerance where men are free to work and live, the land where there is only justice and no reign of terror? Maybe, because they said this was the place where Adam made a mountain, and Adam is the brother of Pangu, and both Adam and Pangu are ancestors of men.
Soon they were overjoyed because they found that this place not only had very just laws, it also had a most enlightened ruler. The good people said their Raja had ruled for 20 years and then voluntarily stepped down and forbade his children and relatives from succeeding him.
Furthermore, he not only refrained from intervening with the ruling of the land, he withdrew from society completely. In fact, he wandered away and became a hermit in the mountains, exposing himself to the wiles of rain and wind, of animals and birds, of plants and insects. He vowed that he would not even defend himself against any creature, but would rather succumb to their beastly desires. But because the karma he had accumulated was so massive, none of the creatures in the wild would harm him. Instead, all of them, those with wings and those without wings, those with sharp teeth and those with sharp claws, all came to pay their respect to him.
After 3 years exposing himself to the elements in the mountains, the former ruler became a holy man. And when he was asked to return to the throne, he ruled the country in such a wise manner that oppression and injustice completely disappeared, this time permanently, never again to be found.
People say this time he had become a deity, an eternal spiritual protector of the land, and because of his teaching and his example, the people became very enlightened too.
They needed no policemen to control their lives, and they needed no courts to arbitrate their quarrels. When there was a dispute, they would let nature reveal the truth. The contending parties would both walk through a pond filled with crocodiles. The guilty one will be eaten by the beasts, while the innocent one will wade through without any harm coming upon him.
From then on, the country became known as a country without rulers. But some people also called it the country of rulers, Negara Raja Raja, because all the people became their own rulers.
Negara, Raja, Raja.
Nagara, Raja, Raja.